We're live. All right. So this is AP Calculus AB Unit 6 Pretest Solutions. This is the key. All right. So my expectations for this, have your pretest out. And if you're Teflon or someone else watching this in the future and you haven't sent me a picture of your answers, because we're doing distance learning right now, send that to me first. Oh, there she is. Maybe I should pause here. All right, so number one, provide a slope field. So notice that X is always going to be positive. When our X coordinate is 0, all of these are going to be 0. So let's go ahead and do that first. We have 0, 0, 0, 0. When X is -1 versus 1, it won't affect the slopes. So the slopes here and here should be exactly the same. And then you just have to worry about this y minus 2. So whenever I have a y coordinate of 0, 0 minus 2 is a slope of -2, -2. Whenever I have a y coordinate of 1, 1 minus 2 is -1. So I have a slope of -1, -1, -1. And then at 2, I have a slope of 0, and then finally a slope of 1. And I should pull up the scoring guide for this too, so you can see the official one. The official scoring guide for Unit 6 pretest. Where are we? Pretest scoring guide 1. Open, and why does this one look different? Oh, because John Wynn made it. Haha. All right. Oh my gosh, program, please respond. There you go. Okay. So this is how they score it. You get out of 2 points. So on yours, you can say out of 2. It's important to know how this is graded so you can get familiar with this. So 1 point for the 0 slopes, 1 point for the positive and negative slopes. So I guess the way that you could say that is this shape of slopes right here, all the 0 slopes, that is a cross shape, +1, and then everything else is +1. Part B, and please stop me at any time if I'm not being clear enough in the grading or of the solutions. So part B, while the slope field in part A is drawn at only 12 points, it is defined at every point in the XY plane. Describe all points in the XY plane for which the slopes are negative. Slopes are negative means that this right here, this represents slopes. That's literally saying y prime, right? We need to say this thing needs to be less than 0. Well, if it needs to be less than 0, set it equal to 0 to figure out the boundaries of where it does turn into 0. So let's go ahead and rewrite x to the power of 4 times quantity of y minus 2, and set that equal to 0 to figure out where the boundaries are that it is actually going to be touching 0. So in order for that to happen, that means x could obviously be 0, or you could have y minus 2 equal to 0, which means y is equal to 2. All right. And when will this change signs? Because we care about where it's negative. This will never be negative. Anything to an even power will never be negative. So the only thing that can make this negative comes over here. So when is y minus 2 going to be negative, less than 0? That is only when y is less than 2. And we're done. That's all you have to write. Y is less than 2. Whenever the y coordinate is less than 2, then we'll have a negative slope. And you can, oh, and I guess I should say this too, like unless x is equal to 0. So I guess the more mathematical way of saying that is y less than 2 and x can never be 0. Because if x is 0, then we saw right here, no matter what happened when x is 0, it has a slope of 0 and it's never negative. Aside from that one case, then yeah, your slopes are always negative. So that's my final answer. I'll box it. Let's see how well Mr. Sindel did. The scoring guide for part B, there it is. Y less than 2, x can't be 0. You get 1 point for that. So this is just out of 1. Shrink out of 1. No questions, no questions.
If I didn't put the x can't be 0,
Oops.
do I not get it?
Nope, you don't get it. You have to say x cannot be 0. Yeah, unfortunately, like as a teacher, I'm like, oh, that should be worth a half out of 1 because it got half the answer. No, AP is like all or nothing. Sorry. Part C, find the particular solution. Okay, whenever you see the words, find particular solution, that's going to be your 4 steps. So step number 1 is to separate. So what is it? X to the power 4, I should say dy dx is equal to x to the power 4 times y minus 2. And first make it a fraction, so over 1. Cross multiply, I get 1 dy, so I'll just write dy is equal to y minus 2. I'm getting like a severe lag. What is going on? What is my computer doing? Did I really have that many tabs open? Okay, y minus 2 times the quantity of dx. And then from there, divide both sides by y minus 2, and I get 1 over y minus 2 dy is equal to dx. So that was separate. Good. Y is on one side, x is on the other. Now gonna do the integration. So that's step number 2. Integration means I'm gonna do the integral of this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and rewrite it as y minus 2 to the power of -1.
No. Wait, mister.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. What is it?
X to the 4th.
Yeah, log it. Extra credit. Good job. Let me move this over. Oh my gosh, this computer. Please. All I want to do is write. X to the power 4 dx, and I still have x to the power 4 dx. Thank you. dy is equal to integral of x to the power 4 dx. All right. From here, what happened to my -1 power? There it is. -1 power means I have natural log. I have to have absolute value of y minus 2, and absolute value is equal to, go up a power, x to the power 5, divide down, divide by 5, and don't forget my constant of integration. That's a whole point right there. Cool, integration done. And then finally do step number 3, evaluate. Evaluate just means use the initial condition that x and y are both 0. That's super easy to remember. So I'm just gonna have to write natural log of absolute value of 0 minus 2 is equal to 0 to the power 5 over 5, doesn't really matter, plus c, which means c is equal to the natural log of 2. And once you get here, then you can officially get your point. For my class, I know that the scoring guide is going to be like, you just have to use the initial condition. So how do we score this thing? 1 point for separation of variables. So in here, separation of variables, by the time we get to this step right here, that's your separation, that's +1. Your next point comes from taking antiderivatives. 2 points for your antiderivatives, so you get 1 point for each side. There's 1 point right there for natural log, 1 point for the x to the power 5 over 5. And then the next thing that it says, constant of integration, that's a whole point right there. So +1 for just writing plus c. The next point comes from using initial condition. So in my class, that means you got down to this step, c is equal to natural log of 2. But on the AP test, you can just stop right here. As soon as you plug it in, you're done. Because again, if you make a mistake, then they'll take the point back away. And yes, there was the additional point if you can actually solve for y, but that's a ton of work and we don't do that. Did anyone attempt it? Just curious? No, okay. So that's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So this is gonna be out of 5. Does it up 5, 6, 7, 8? Yep, so that's out of 8 points. All right, any questions on number 1? All right, Teflon, you know what to do. We're on to number 2. And that totally rhymes. Ooh, wow, yeah, this one is, I remember this one is notoriously hard. The baby bird.
Do I leave?
Sorry, say that again.
Do I leave?
You can stay in here and mute your computer if you want, or you can leave it. It's up to you. I know that you're going to be doing work, so it's fine if you want to leave.
Okay.
All right, so we have this equation. B prime essentially is equal to all of that, and capital B is the solution, and it gives us our initial condition. Our lowercase t is 0 and our capital B is 20. That's what it's saying here. And it's different. It's not y and x, so it's just a little bit of a change, but sometimes that does make it harder. Is the bird gaining weight faster when it weighs 40 grams or when it weighs 70 grams? Well, again, faster is speed. Speed is the first derivative. And hey, the first derivative is given to us in the problem. Literally what it's asking here is plug in 40 into this equation, plug in 70 into this equation. Which of those values is bigger? Because this is representing how fast the bird is gaining weight. If I plug in 40 and that's the speed. So the mathematical notation for that is D capital B of dt, evaluation bar when is t grams? What is that's t is time. Oh, B capital B is the grams. Haha. I'm reading this question now. So I'm going to say capital B here is equal to 40. And then I'm going to do kind of the same thing. The derivative of capital B with respect to time t when B is equal to 70. What is that going to be equal to? Well, this is just 1/5 of 100 minus 40. And similarly down here, this is going to be 1/5 of 100 minus 70. Which of these is bigger? Well, clearly this one is going to be bigger. This is going to be 60 over 5. This one is going to be 30 over 5. And if you want to simplify, you can say, yeah, 60 over 5 is 12. 30 over 5 is 6. And you can say, didn't know if you know this, AP graders, but 12 is bigger than 6. And then you'd have something along the lines of the bird is gaining weight faster when it weighs 40 grams. And if you probably want to say the reason too, because I'm going to say B prime because I'm being lazy instead of dB dt. B prime of 40 is greater than B prime when I plugged in 70. And that's as simple as I can make it. Did we get it correct? Help us. Scoring guide. Scoring guide says, did you use dB/dt? You just have to use it, and that's kind of funny. Well, look, we wrote down, oh, maybe I should get rid of our last scoring guide. We don't need that. Did we write down dB/dt? We did write it down, so just by writing it down, we get a point. The scoring guide, did you get the correct answer with the reason? You have to have the reason. And sometimes the way that AP graders interpret the reason is their math shown. So I think it would be safe to say, like, as long as you show all of this stuff and have the correct conclusion that it's gaining weight faster when it weighs 40, then you're fine. But I also wrote my reason because I know I'm making life easy on the AP grader. I'm making life easier on Mr. Sandell and saying, hey, the reason is right here. B prime of 40 is greater than B prime of 70. So just by writing all of this stuff right here, that's an additional 1 point. This was out of 2 points. All right, and this is usually the hardest part of this question. So find the second derivative in terms of B and use that to explain why this graph isn't right. So again, the first derivative is this thing, this 1/5 of 100 minus B. I'm going to rewrite that because I don't like the fact that these aren't multiplied. I'm going to go ahead and distribute that. I know 1/5 of 100 is 20. So I'm going to say, okay, B prime is really 20 minus capital B over 5. So far, so good. I just distributed the 1/5. The hard part about this problem is this this problem is not taking the derivative with respect to b. I see a b in here. It's not taking the derivative with respect to b. This is essentially saying, let me rewrite this in terms of y, so maybe it looks a little bit easier for you. This is saying y prime is equal to 20 minus y over 5. If I take the derivative of y prime, I get y double prime, which is what I'm looking for. So if I take the derivative of b, I get b double prime. I took the derivative left half. I added another prime. That's easy. The right-hand piece is the trickier bit. If I take the derivative of 20, hey, it's a constant. It goes away. It's gone. If I take the derivative of this, it does not turn into 1/5. Because b is our y variable. It's like saying, take the derivative of y. It doesn't turn into 1. It turns into y prime. So you have to be careful and say, oh, this is really, well, it was negative b over 5 before. Well, now it's negative b prime over 5. All we did was we took the derivative again. Because it's with respect to t, I cannot get this thing and eliminate it. It turned into a b prime. And then I have b prime. Hey, check this out. B prime is 20 minus b over 5. So I can do a little bit of substitution magic here and say this is really, don't forget that negative out front, negative. I'll maybe factor out the negative 1/5. There's your negative 1/5. And then I'm going to go ahead and rewrite b prime. B prime is 20 minus b over 5. And if I distribute this like I did in the last case, it will make it a little bit easier to analyze what's going on with this graph. This is really equal to negative 1/5 of 20. What is that? Negative 4, and then negative times negative is a positive, so plus b over 25. And there is the real second derivative. Okay, we're not done. That's the first half. The second half is explain why this second derivative cannot resemble, or why this graph is wrong then. We'll check it out. The second derivative should have an inflection point, right? I mean, it goes up and then the slope changes and the slope goes back to being less. I mean, it's always, the slope is always positive, but the concavity changes, right? If I have some concavity change, that means I have to have some sort of IP, some sort of inflection point right here. So I should be able to set this equation equal to 0, setting the second derivative equal to 0, should find possible inflection points. That's the definition of an inflection point, setting the second derivative to 0. So this is my work over here. I'll say find inflection point. What do? You set b double prime equal to 0. So when I do that, I get 0 is equal to negative 4 plus b over 25. Add 4 to both sides. Okay, 4 is equal to b over 25. And multiply both sides by 25. And then this turns into 100 is equal to capital B. That means that b will have an inflection point somewhere around 100. And remember, this is capital B. This is not T. This is capital B. Capital B will be 100. We'll check it out. Where's 100? 100 is right here. The inflection point is not at 100. The inflection point is wrong. So I'll write something along the lines of the inflection point according to our b double prime should be at b equals to 100, but in the graph it appears to be, I don't know, around 60. I should say b is equal to 60. In case I accidentally confuse that for time. Okay, so if you feel confused by part B, that's okay. I think it was one of the hardest questions on this entire pretest, but let's go ahead and analyze how do you do the scoring. So solution guide, help us. wow, you only get 2 points for that really hard question. So you get 1 point if you found the second derivative, and they do the second derivative. Oh, they factored out both of the 5s. You had a -1/5 and a +1/5. But if you distribute this, you'll see, oh yeah, that's going to be -4 plus b over 25, which is exactly what we got. So plus 1 point, we found the second derivative. Yay. And then how did they in the answer key say? They say that, oh yeah, they found that it should always be concave down up until this inflection point of 100. And it should always be concave down before that, which is kind of what we said. Our explanation, their explanation is the same thing. If you like their explanation better, yeah, go for it. But yeah, give yourself 1 point. So plus 1. For over there, that's only out of 2 points. And then the meat, the huge amount of points come from find the particular solution, And we have our initial condition that our lowercase t is 0, our capital B is 20. Let's go ahead and do all the normal steps that we do. Again, if you know how to do these steps, you can ignore part A and part B and still pass and possibly get a 5 on the AP test. That's the cool part about the way that we teach this, right? So I need to, I'm gonna be lazy here. Screenshot, paste screenshot. Oh my gosh, people are going crazy about trying to get the vaccine. I've been texted like 20 times in the past half an hour, and my computers are dying. I upgraded to Big Sur last night. I don't know if that's causing me to have a slower operating system here. All right, so there is our dBdt. Separate. So I'm gonna cross multiply. Technically, this is, I'll leave the 1/5 over there. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of divide the 100 minus b over here. So it's gonna be 1 divided by that 100 minus capital B. That's gonna be d capital B. And on the right-hand side, I'm just gonna leave the 1/5 over there, 1/5 dt. There's a bunch of ways that you can do this. So if you're thinking, oh no, I wanted the 5 to be up over here and have nothing over here, it's the same answer. It's just the AP grader will know what they're looking for. I wonder how, did they do it this way? They actually did. Yeah, they left the 1/5 on the right-hand side. So done. We did the separation. B's are on the left, T's are on the right. Now do the integration. So integral of 100 minus capital B, all to the power of -1 d capital B. That's going to be equal to the integral of 1/5 dt. Do the integration. All right, so integration, -1 power, and that's our famous natural log. They're pretty common down here. Natural log of absolute value of 100 minus capital B. Wow, I'm getting like such crazy lag, it's hard to write. That's going to be equal to 1/5 of t. Don't forget plus c. All right, so that's step 2. And then step 3, evaluate. So just plug these things in and solve. So lowercase t is a 0, so that means that is all going to be canceled out in the next step. So I'm going to have natural log of absolute value of 100 minus capital B is 20, so 100 minus 20, and that's equal to c. Again, this all canceled out because t is 0, and therefore natural log of 80 is the value of c that we're looking for. How do we grade this thing? And I'm pretty sure it's going to be super familiar. It's 1 point for each of these: 1 for separation, 1 for antiderivatives, 1 for constant of integration, 1 for initial condition. What I say for AP test, you're shooting for a 3 points out of 9 to pass. You're getting 4 points just by doing those easy steps. So what do we say here? We separated, 1 point. We integrated, you don't get 2 points this time. Everything is just 1 point for integration, 1 point for integration of the right side and the left side. You get 1 point for your constant integration always. And then you get 1 point for using initial conditions. Again, on this step on the AP test, stop here. Don't do any extra work in case you make a mistake so they don't take your point away. For my class though, hopefully you got C is equal to natural log of 80. And yeah, that's going to be out of 4 points. All right. Any questions on number 2? I forgot to ask for the last problems. I should ask now. How many points did you get on number 2 out of the, what was it, 8? 4? Oh man, nice. Okay, you're well above 3. And 3. We're passing the AP test already. Congratulations, girls. What about the first problem? How many points did we get on this one? Is that a 6, Fiona? Or 7? Is the thumb there too? Oh my gosh. 7 and 6. Oh, you girls are crushing it. Oh, I don't know if I'm doing well on this test. Yeah, you're doing well. I'll just give you that. All right. Number 3. Let f be a differentiable function with all that stuff. All right. Find the second derivative. So, well, there's the first derivative. So take the derivative yet again. So I'm going to say, I'm going to say y double prime because I'm being lazy here. Y double prime is equal to, okay, derivative. Oh, this is product rule. 1d2 plus 2d1. 1 and 2. There's 2 things being multiplied to get each other. So 1 is y cubed. d2. So d2 is the derivative of this. Well, derivative of 3 is nothing. So derivative of negative 2x is negative 2. So there's a derivative of 2. Again, I'm taking the derivative with respect to x. So this didn't turn into an x prime. It just went away. So that was 1d2 plus 2d1. 2 is this 3 minus 2x. And then d1 is a little bit harder. So this is going to be times 3y squared. And then take the derivative of the inside. This was doubter times dinner. Dinner is y prime. So we're done. We found it. It didn't say to simplify it, but it is maybe going to be helpful because of this next part. Is the graph concave up, concave down, or neither at this point right here? Hey, well, just plug it in. Plug it into both, actually. You'll see that when we plug it into this equation, we have an x coordinate and we have a y coordinate. When we plug that in, this y coordinate and this x coordinate will be filled, this y coordinate will be filled, but we can't put anything in for the y prime, so we need to plug it in up here first. And I'll leave the x and y here. So if I plug in x and y over here, and again, I don't care about I do care about how big it is, don't I? Because what if I get like a big negative value or small negative value? Okay, so let me be careful about this. When I plug in numbers up here, 1/2 to the power of 3 is 1/8. So I'll say 1/2 to the power of 3 times 3 minus 2 times 2. Let's just plug it into y prime. Again, that's going to be equal to 1/8 times 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So this is times negative 1. So this up here is just negative 1/8. That's our y prime. This y prime right here is going to be negative 1/8. Let me just plug that in before I forget. This is negative 1/8. Then plug everything else in again. So x is 2. So this value right here is 2. And then this y value is 1/2. And this value right here is also 1/2. Plugging in, I get, we know that that's 1/8 from the previous problem, times negative 2, that's negative 2/8. Plus, okay, what's happening over here? 3 minus 4 is negative 1 again. Negative 1 times, okay, 1/2 squared is 1/4, times 3 is 3/4. So times 3/4 times that original negative 1/8. And again, we only care, is this whole value right here positive or negative? Or maybe it's 0, because maybe that means neither. We only care about concave up or concave down. So what do we have right here? A negative times a negative is a positive. So these are opposite signs. We have to be careful. And multiplying, we have a positive. I really just have to multiply these two. Now I've used up the negative 1. Multiplying those, you just multiply straight through. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 8 is 32. And that's positive. To have like denominators, I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 4 here. So 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. 4 times 8 is 32. And hey, negative 8 plus 3 is a negative. So this whole thing is less than 0. It is negative. So this is concave down. And if you want to have the reason, I always love writing the reason right next to my final answer to make it easier for the AP graders, the person that's going to be grading your test, like Mr. Snell. I'll say because your f double prime or your I'm just going to say y double prime is less than 0. That's the definition of what it means to be concave down, which kind of as a hint to you girls, if you have no idea what you're doing and they're asking, is it concave up or concave down? If you want to just take a guess, a shot in the dark because you're out of time, just say concave down because y double prime is less than 0. Maybe the AP grader's going fast and they're like, oh yeah, they know the definition of concave down. Maybe they'll just give it to you. So always write your reason. Sometimes even if you don't know what you're doing, just write your reason because you have this memorized. That's on our speed sheet. You know what concave down means. In terms of grading this, the grading this is on my preview. What did Mr. Wynn say? He said on number 3, pretest 6, for part A, you get 1 point if you found the second derivative and 1 point if you say concave down with the reasoning because blah, blah, blah. So 1 point apiece. So we got 1 point right here, +1 right there, and +1 by saying the conclusion with the reason. So that was out of 2 points. Shwink, out of 2. Part B, write an equation of the tangent line. Oh, you've seen these before and before. Okay, so equation of the tangent line, that's y minus box. That was kind of a big box. I don't know if it needs to be that big. I'll make it tall. Y minus box is, oh, I swear it's lag. It's not me, girls. What is going on? Why is my computer running so slow? And I only have 3 minutes left. Y minus box is equal to box times x minus box. This is ridiculous. Okay, what are we plugging in? Well, we know our x and y immediately. 2 is x, so we'll use a different color, make it pop out. 2 is our x, 1/2 is the y. All we need is the y prime, and don't we have an equation that gives us y prime? Oh yeah, it's right there. Just literally plug it in there and you're done. Wow, this was a really easy question then. So y prime, let's plug it. Didn't we just plug in 2.5? We did. That was this whole work right here. The answer is -1/8. Oh, okay. So the answer is this negative. Oh, wait, I was gonna make it pop out with a different color. -1/8. Fun fact about the AP test: they don't strictly look only at this area for the solution for B. If you wrote your work like I did up here to find the answer of -1/8, they will go back and say, oh yeah, they did it up here. So that's fine. We're done. Done with part B. How do we score that? Mr. Wynn, what do we say? You get 1 point. Did you get it all right? We did. +1 point. So that's out of 1 point. I hope that these scores are matching up with the front page. I'm not actually checking. So if I do make a mistake, you can catch that and get some extra credit. All right, part C. So solve by doing your normal things. Notice that this doesn't say find the particular solution. This is how the older tests, like from the 90s, used to be stated. So I'm guessing this is probably just an older question. But separable differential equation it's going to be kind of the same phrase. This is not standard. I don't want you to memorize this, but just be comfortable saying, okay, part C is almost always going to be something along these lines. So we know our initial condition, x is 2, y is 1/2, and start separating, integrating, and evaluating, and if you want, isolate. So separate. I'm going to skip some steps because I think you girls are okay with that, and I'm out of time. I have 50 seconds left. How fast can I go? I have 1 over y to the power of 3 dy is equal to, wait, I'm not going to finish time. Let me just do this. Let me pull up the key from last year. Pretest key. And then you can just kind of gloss over it. Yes, this is from a while ago. And I haven't even gone over the multiple choice solutions either. I did the evaluate step 2. Once you, here, let's look at this. You get 1 point for separating, there it is. You get 1 point for integrating on the left-hand side, 1 point for integrating on the right-hand side, 1 point for your plus C, and then if you get C is equal to -4, you get your final point. By the way, if you on the test do the last step, it is extra credit. Like I will give you a point. You can have over 100% on this test if you want. All right, well, it is officially 9:20. If you want to see, you can screenshot this right now. This is online too. The pretest solutions are online. So this exact PDF document. And in terms of the multiple choice questions, that was the answer key. Sorry, I ran out of time, but I think the video from last year is still okay, hopefully. And if not, I'll just upload this one.